So I'm now filling this aquarium up after I've done a spring clean or overhaul, whatever you want to call it. And the purpose of that is that underneath all the rocks over time, you build up lots of crap. And I've redone this tank to minimize the amount of crap that's going to build up under the rocks. The previous setup had 4 times more rocks than this in it, which served nicely as a divider, but allowed lots of crap to build up under the rocks. So this setup, it'd be very easy to do a micro spring clean. What I mean by a micro spring clean is every now and then move that rock out of the way, give it a clean, move it back. Whereas before there was so many rocks that a micro spring clean just wasn't possible, and therefore lots of crap built up under the rocks, therefore lots of sediment, and in the sediment the oxygen can't penetrate thick layers of sediment, so therefore you have the fear of forming what's called a hydrogen sulfide, which is the basis of what they call old tank syndrome. And old tank syndrome is when you have a tank, it's been going for a very long time, it's been doing very well, and then suddenly it starts to not do so well. And that can potentially be a result of old tank syndrome. And that's why I'm a big fan of doing spring cleans every year or two. And I also am a big fan of filter spring cleans too, particularly if you have big sump filters like this one has. But this tank has been going for a very long time and has recently started experiencing some problems. So a spring clean is something that's been on the table for a very long time, and we finally got it done. And also change is king. Now I'm a big believer that when you set a tank up and you get it looking good, for 1 year you love it, 1 year you like it, and then you've sort of seen it. So swapping everything around, changing the decorations, reducing them, increasing them, whatever you need to do, is something that I'm a big fan of, because it keeps it interesting for you and for the fish. Now if you are getting algae in your aquarium, the first thing you can do is consider adding more catfish, because they can do a great job cleaning the algae. You can get bristlenose and plecostomus catfish for your algae, and then you can get things like a little school of Siamese algae eaters for your blackbeard algae, and all that stuff helps. You can also monitor your phosphates. You can also feed better quality foods, increase filtration, but ultimately light is one of the biggest factors for algae. Now, if you're going on holidays, or if there's going to be a period of time when you're not sort of enjoying your aquarium, the other thing that you can do is what's called a blackout. And so that would require turning all your lights off and turning off as much residual light as possible. So making sure your windows are closed and making sure that any other lights around the house are off. Once again, this being most convenient during holiday time. This doesn't bother the fish in any way, shape or form, but what a blackout does is kill off a lot of the algae, and it can reduce any dominant algae that you might be getting that's thriving in that current environment. It just acts as an upset. So if you're going away for a week or two, if you're able to create a blackout for your aquarium, then that's a way of knocking off algae, which for a small aquarium, it's not really worth it. But for a very large aquarium, it can be a technique worth considering. So right now we have the fish in the sump, and they appear to be doing quite well. As far as the water quality is concerned, their KH is good, the GH is good, pH slightly high but good. It's a little bit of phosphate, no problem. There's not really any ammonia or nitrite, and there's a tiny bit of nitrate, so there's nothing here that I'm worried about at all. And in the meantime, the fish all look quite good. So what we're going to do now is get the temperature up to 25 degrees in the fish tank. Then I can turn the sump on and move the fish from there to there. I'm also going to make sure that I give it a good dose of water ager. I also want to give it a dose of KH and a dose of GH, and that will prepare the fish for moving back into their home, and they will be quite happy in their nicely renovated house. Now, one of my best friends in the world are flippers. So a flipper is a magnet, just like this, except it's got a little razor blade on it, and it makes my life so much easier. These sorts of things, they're better than nothing, but they don't really do that much. So no matter what tank you've got, I would consider a flipper, because I like things that make my job easy. And the other thing that I'd be doing if this was my tank is also getting myself a max spec claw. And these claws are like grabbers, and they just make rearranging anything in the tank so easy. Having good tools is the key to having an easy fish tank. Okay, so I've placed the heater in the aquarium now, and the heater's on, the light's on. So what I'm going to do now is fill the tank up to just below this hole, and then I'm going to give it a good 48 hours. And then once I measure 25 degrees in the tank, and then I've treated the water, then I can consider moving the fish from the sump up into the tank. But this is quite a decent body of water, and I'm going to have to allow time to let the tank get back to 25 degrees before I turn the heater on or turn the tank back on, because I don't want to give the fish a cold flush. Now it's important that you consider that your fake plants are a bit disposable, because over time they just start to look crappy and there's sort of nothing you can do about it. Now there are some things you can do to resurrect your plants when they look bad. One is put them in the sun for a couple of days, then flip them over, leave them in the sun for a couple of days, hit them with a hose. That can be quite effective. You can also hit them with a gurney. Now some of these plants definitely have not come up as well as I wished, but without spending a silly amount of time on it, because you don't want to go individually cleaning every leaf or anything silly like that, otherwise it's cheaper just to put a new plant in. So at this point, no new plants have been added to this tank, but I will say that a lot of these plants are very much on the brink of wanting to be replaced. So depending on your standards and how important the tank is to look good, as far as function concerned, all of these plants are totally fine. But it really does look nicer when you get some nice new plants. And though at this stage we haven't put any new plants in at all, I will say that we're definitely getting up to that point where some new ones would be a good idea. And once I put in some Siamese algae eaters and some catfish, they might help to clean up the plants a little bit better than they are. But these plants are like 500% better than they were before I did the spring clean. Okay, so I made a bit of a discovery here. This heater is set for 26 degrees, and though the light did actually turn on, it's actually not working, because when I touch the heater it is not hot. So the condition of this heater doesn't look ideal. I'm assuming it's fairly old, and it definitely needs replacing. Now there is another heater down in the sump, but considering it's winter, I won't be touching that heater, which means this job is on pause until I can bring a heater that's going to heat this tank up, because there's no way I'm taking the one out of the sump until the fish are back in the tank. So I now have both of the power heads on, and they're pumping away nicely. Well, that sure is a transformation from what it was. Throw myself in the bin. Well, I'm very happy with this result. It has come up 1,000%. It's going to look really good. The fish are going to be very happy when they're back in here. Got all the salt dissolving now. Next, we're just waiting for the temperature to come up, which won't happen until I put a new heater in.